What's up, guys? It's 80s slasher review time. We're gonna do one from '89, Nightmare Beach, and this one's gonna be an interesting one. Let's do it. Nightmare Beach stars John Sachs and Michael Parks and is directed by Harry Kirkpatrick. What's up, guys? Welcome to a classic slasher review. This is a movie I had never heard of, but Dave Vanderhoff, good friend, sent this to me. I had just reviewed Strip Nude for Your Killer with Edwidge Finish, and it had a killer with a motorcycle helmet getup. And there's just something about the aesthetic of that. I don't know, it was just really cool. And I think it suits well for like a slasher movie. They should do it these days, right? There might be. You guys might let me know in the comments, okay? But yeah, looking forward to diving into this one. This is definitely an interesting movie with some heavy GIALLO vibes. And I have kind of a funny, interesting story about watching this movie. But first off, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. This is a beach slasher. It's set in Miami Beach, although they call it Manatee Beach, and I think that's like a fictional location. At the beginning of the movie, if you pay close attention, you'll see a sign that says Daytona Beach. So I don't know if they maybe shot some coverage in Daytona, but it says in the credits that this was filmed in Miami. The beach setting is a unique setting. You don't see too many of them for slasher movies. I just did a movie called The Slayer last year, which was set on a beach. But that's definitely a different movie than this one is in terms of like vibe and tone. This is more silly and tongue-in-cheek. The story here is there's this guy on death row. He's part of a gang. His name's Diablo, and he is killed at the beginning of the movie in the electric chair. He's fried. He states that he's innocent. He didn't do it. And so after he dies, then there is this killer in a motorcycle helmet and a motorcycle that's going around killing random people. Are they tied to the case? Are they not? Who knows? I'm not going to spoil this one for you because I'm sure a lot of you have not seen this movie. Maybe I will talk a little bit of spoilers later in the review because it is an interesting reveal. So I'll let you know once we get there, okay? You're good now. Now, let me tell you my experience with this movie. I watched it twice, okay? I watched it yesterday and today. Yesterday, I watched it with just the English version, you know?
I'm it. Now move that toy before I trash it.
Get a grip. Chill. Look, we don't want any trouble, all right?
This movie does have American actors, or maybe some of them are Canadian, I'm not sure. But the movie is in the English language, okay? I'll just say that, dubbing-wise. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. The acting is so freaking atrocious in this movie if you watch the English version. That it will definitely, potentially take you out of the movie. It does have some cool kills.
I'm sick of being judged by your stupid morality. Just stay out of my life and let me worry about my own soul.
This movie made me realize that acting is definitely a skill that you have to learn. Because it seems like most of the actors in this movie had little to no experience in the craft. I could be wrong, but just going off of face value and what I'm hearing, let's just put it this way. Friday the 13th actors look like freaking De Niro compared to this movie, all right? So I guess it just goes to show that there are different levels of acting. There is the bottom of the barrel, which is this movie, and it's hard to pay attention to the actual plot of the movie because some of the line delivery in this is laughable and hilarious.
So you're biology majors. So am I.
Really? What school?
School of Hard Knocks.
You know, and it just completely takes you out of the movie. Then there is the mid-tier movies like Friday the 13th, you know, Halloween, all that stuff. And not just horror. Just, you know, they might be green in terms of acting, but they get the job done, right? They keep you afloat in terms of the story. And then there's, you know, I guess, higher budget Hollywood tier of acting. It's always been there. They can become engulfed in the character. You believe them as the character. So I guess to me, those are like the three tiers of acting. And this is definitely the lowest tier. And look, guys, I know this is just an 80s slasher. I can definitely give some leeway, cut some slack in terms of acting, as long as there's some fun kills and everything. But if the acting really gets in the way of the plot and it's just so horribly bad, laughably bad, Let's put it this way. Like watching a fan film from somebody that's doing it for the first time, that gets all his buddies and his friends together to do the movie, you know what type of acting you're going to get there. That's what this movie feels like. It does have some production value for sure. And you do have freaking John Saxon and Michael Parks in this, okay? And they're great. That makes the acting stick out like a sore thumb, because you'll have scenes with those two and it's really good. And then you'll go back to the younger characters and it's just abysmal. So why am I telling you this? Because I enjoyed this movie. But the reason I enjoyed this movie is because I watched it again today. After watching it yesterday, I was like, God, that was horrible. I watched it again today. And you know what I did? I put on the Italian dub of the movie. I literally chose to watch this movie and read subtitles with pretty much Italian actors, because these are voice actors that come in. They give you a different performance than what's on screen. And you know what? It fit the movie. It actually made the tone of the movie changed quite a bit. It went from silly to sort of serious.
Lo dico io, perciò devi spostarla prima che te la faccia. E tu però, Giallo. Ehi, senti, noi non cerchiamo mai. Via dalle palle, se no vi rompo.
And I found myself more immersed in the actual story. I noticed things that I didn't on the first time because I'm so focused on the bad acting. So maybe there's a lesson there, and I didn't go into this movie, thinking I was going to do this. I thought I was just going to watch the regular American dub and go about my day. But it was so bad that I thought, you know what? I got to give this movie one more chance.
Senti, ne ho abbastanza delle tue prediche e della tua stupida moralità. Non intrometterti nella mia vita, perché alla mia anima ci penso da sola.
There are definitely some Italian horror influences in this movie. You do have one of the members of Goblin doing the score here, and it's great stuff. And if you go behind the scenes on this, it's kind of interesting too, because originally an Italian filmmaker was going to be directing this movie. Umberto Lenzi was hired to direct this movie. He had some creative differences behind the scenes. He thought it was too similar to an earlier film of his from 1972 called Seven Bloodstained Orchids. What is it with Giallo movies having long titles and usually with numbers in them? But yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, he had some creative differences. And then they hired another director, James Justice, who went under a different name, Harry Kirkpatrick. Some have stated that Harry Kirkpatrick was just an alias for actually Umberto Lenzi, when Umberto says it wasn't. He gives full credit to James Justice. But even watching this movie the first time, I definitely felt those Italian horror influences, especially in the kills and the violence. This is the late 80s. And if you remember in the late 80s, the MPAA, they were going hard on a lot of horror movies. But this one, it's like they didn't even really care for it. I'd never even heard of the movie, so maybe that's part of the reason. Whereas, Friday the 13th, part 7 is, infamous for having those MPAA problems. But it's such a high-profile title that, maybe that's why they were putting it under the microscope so much. Whereas this movie, what's Nightmare Beach? Nobody cares, I guess. But also there's a gang in this movie called the Demons, and they have demons on the back of their jackets. And it's the logo for the movie Demons. So there's another clue for you. So Umberto Lenzi, his influence is definitely all over this movie. I'll even say a lot of the actors and actresses, they definitely have an Italian horror flavor to them. There's this female character that's a member of the gang. She was Diablo's girlfriend. She definitely looks like she could have been in like an Argento type movie. Now, backing up a little bit on the characters, after watching the Italian dub of this movie, I got invested in the characters much more. Our main character is this football player who screwed up and he blew the last game. His name's Skip. This is a weird character because he's got this beautiful woman by the name of Gail that's pretty much throwing herself at him. And he just really wants to find his buddy Ronnie. But even before Ronnie goes missing, by the way, Ronnie is the biggest horn dog ever. It is spring break though. Even before Ronnie, gets killed, Skip, there's a hang up there going on somewhere. It seems like he doesn't even, care about hooking up. He's a single guy. But I guess he's just really dwelling on, screwing up and failing at this game. He was the reason the team lost. But Gail is this bartender. Her sister was killed. She thinks it was Diablo, but it might not be Diablo. Then you got this blonde bombshell character who lures these older men into her hotel room to get money from them. But it seems like she literally has sex with him. I don't know. It never says, but I mean, the guys come out of the room pretty happy. So that's just a weird character, and that's her sole purpose in this movie. She's a con artist, and then she ends up being a victim down the road. I don't know if they were just trying to fill up time for this movie. Maybe. This is another one of those characters that you could easily see in an Italian horror giallo type film. You know how giallo characters, they are a little bit eccentric. This character was that. And these are all like American or Canadian actors. I'm thinking American. And then let's talk about the heavyweights. You got Michael Parks playing this doctor. And then you got John Saxon, you guessed it, playing a member of law enforcement. He even did a movie called Blood Beach right after this one where he's pretty much the same type character. But he does it well, you know? I think certain character actors, they get pigeonholed into these parts because they just do a damn good job at them. So they're like, hey, we need a John Saxon. And I'm sure to this day, even though, you know, John Saxon's no longer with us, I guarantee there are directors, you know, that are looking at parts and they're like, man, John Saxon, we needed that type of role. You know, he was just so good at it. But he's definitely a hard ass. He's really hard on this gang. He's covering up for the mayor by the name of Loomis, by the way. I'm sure that was intentional. So Michael Parks, he's Dr. Willett. Then you got John Saxon, who is Stryker. And then this Mayor Loomis. Those three are in cahoots with each other, but they don't really know who the killer is. They even speculate that maybe it's Diablo coming back from the grave and there's a ghost actually killing these people. I don't know. You know, and just to compare it to giallo movies again, this is a whodunit. Now, the way the killer does his business is interesting too because he electrocutes every one of them, and that does tie into the reveal of the movie. He explains why he kills them the way he does. So you don't get a lot of variety here with the killings, but they do make them pretty gruesome. Like one of the kills, you know, he rips the cable out of the wall, sticks it in her mouth, and then like one of her eyeballs starts bulging out. So some fun kills for sure, just don't expect much variety. Okay, now here's where I'll talk about the reveal. So if you don't want to know the reveal, then you might want to check out. I recommend if you like 80s slasher movies that feel like giallo, you know, Italian horror, then you'll probably enjoy this movie. And I would encourage you guys, yeah, watch the American dub first. That's what it was filmed in anyway. But I think you'll see what I mean. The acting is really, really rough. And so I say if you don't like this movie that much, go back and watch the Italian dub if you don't mind reading subtitles, just because the performances by the Italian actors are so much better, so much better. So the reveal is there is this priest in the movie, which funny enough, I didn't talk about the priest throughout the review, but who cares, right? He has this daughter, by the way, too, who he's constantly like scolding. You know, it's the old stereotypical preacher's daughter, you know, and she's loose and wild. There's nothing more to that than just that. But he's super religious. He ends up being the killer, which was a surprise to me. Didn't see that coming at all. Sometimes they just really swing for the fences in terms of these reveals. I don't want my audience to predict it, even though it probably doesn't make sense. Just for the sake of a surprise, let's make this guy, the freaking priest, is the killer. And the only reason he's killing is because they're sinners, right? So he's got a lot of work ahead of him if he's wanting to just kill anybody who sins.
I wreak his vengeance on those who flaunt his will.
But overall, I did enjoy this. Luckily, after the second viewing, I would give it a high humdrum, and I'm glad to own it in my collection. I'm a sucker for slasher movies, even bad slasher movies. It does have some nice, fun twists and turns in there. Some really eccentric characters, which is nice. Definitely an Italian horror vibe to it, which is also nice. Great metal music, by the way, too. Tons of like hard rock metal music laced throughout. And every time the killer kills, they play this one snippet of music by the member of Goblin. And you're definitely going to get those, like, remember like an opera by Argento? Every time the killer killed, they play like some metal music. That's what they do in this movie too. So yeah, high humdrum for sure. Definitely check out Nightmare Beach if you haven't. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow me on Drumdums and on my socials. Support me on Patreon and become a channel member. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.